What started off as a great match quickly turned into an unforgettable moment in WWE history. In a stunning twist, Paul Heyman betrayed not just one of his closest friends and allies, but
this is
two.
a crazy
First, he
like.
stabbed CM Punk in the back.
Look at his
then,
face.
in an even bigger shocking
Look at
twist,
his face.
he turned on his tribal chief Roman Reigns, who he clearly loved. But it didn't end there. Heyman aligned himself with...
I just want to say real quick, I just finished the You show. Literally just watched season 5 the day it came out because I'm unemployed and don't have a life. Show's peak. If you haven't seen it, watch it. I recommend it, but I don't recommend it because the show is crazy as shit. I'm not even joking. It's like Dexter. I haven't seen Dexter, but I know what it's about, right? You is pretty much essentially the same thing with another character named Joe. That's about it. And I could be wrong. Don't press me about that. If you any old heads watching the video, because I don't know what I'm talking about. Just making a comparison, Chief. Let's get back to it.
Seth freaking Rollins. The show closed with Rollins and Heyman standing tall, leaving the WWE Universe stunned. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the real reason why Paul Heyman turned his back on Roman
I almost ate chapstick by accident.
And why he chose Seth Rollins instead. Paul Heyman turning on CM Punk is actually pretty straightforward, and honestly, I kind of get it. Throughout this entire storyline, it was clear that Punk was using Heyman as a pawn to mess with Roman Reigns. Sure, it gave Punk a psychological edge, but it also put Heyman in an impossible position.
Oh yeah, for any WWE fans watching right now, how do you feel about the new Seth Rollins? The new Seth Rollins faction that's being created with Paul Rollins and Braun Breaker? And who do you think is going to be the next added superstar? Let me know down in the comments below. Or the Twitch chat if anybody here wish they're not.
That I built over the last 5 years. That is not loyalty, that's betrayal in disguise. So Heyman made the right call to turn on Punk, and truthfully, Punk had it coming. Heyman's favor was supposed to be getting CM Punk a WrestleMania main event, not being stuck in his corner playing mind games against his tribal chief. There's a line and Punk crossed it. Therefore, Heyman hit him with a low blow and clearly did not care. That brings us to the bigger question.
What is this music that's playing with the why betray Reigns? What's that? Don't like, bro.
Relationship with the tribal chief, but just minutes later, Heyman stabbed Roman in the back as well. So what happened? Well, it looks like that relationship has been falling apart for a while now. Let's rewind, and over the past year, the Bloodline would treat Heyman more like a punching bag than a trusted advisor.
That's because the original Bloodline members ain't there no more. It's just Roman, the abuser.
Roman sat at home, the group basically bullied Paul Heyman, and it got so bad.
And I guess Solo's Bloodline, but I separate them from the real Bloodline. Come on.
Attacked him because Heyman would not acknowledge him as his tribal chief, and that right there, taking a beating like that, is real loyalty. Heyman took that beating rather than betraying Roman Reigns and saying that there's a different tribal chief. That's respect. And yet Roman was not there to help him out. Why would he sit around at home knowing that they had his wise men stressed out and then they would go on to beat him up? That is not a loyal tribal chief. Heyman then brought in CM Punk to help Roman's team at War Games.
Roman don't help none of his bloodline.
But instead of showing gratitude, Roman gave Heyman suspicion, distrust, and even put his hands on him during this build-up to WrestleMania. If that's how Roman treats loyalty, maybe he did not deserve it anymore. Or maybe Heyman is just being Paul Heyman. Maybe he saw the writing on the wall. Roman's time at the top might be running out, and if there's one thing we know about Paul Heyman, it's that he always backs a winner. He jumped from Brock Lesnar to Roman Reigns because he saw the
valid.
future.
I'm low-key not even pressed about Seth Rollins being the new Paul Heyman guy, bro. I've been waiting for him to get his respect since 2020 again, bro. I mean, for the first time since 2021.
Damn, he was one smart SOB.
And I don't even mean by the roster. I mean by the entire industry, the company, bro. This dude Seth Rollins has been pretty much like losing every rivalry since 2021, and he barely even made it to WrestleMania 38 in 2021. Or was that
So why
22?
would
That might
Paul
have been
Heyman choose
22.
to align with Seth Rollins of all
And 23
people?
was 39,
Well,
24 was
there's
40.
more to
Okay,
the
yeah.
story than meets the eye. This wasn't just about Heyman randomly switching sides. This moment feels like a setup, something that connects directly to night 2 of WrestleMania. Because I don't think that Paul Heyman simply chose Seth Rollins. I think The Rock chose Seth Rollins. Let's look at all the clues. Over the last few weeks, Rollins has been dropping hints that could be related
He
to
has
The
been
Rock,
dropping
whether
hints.
it's his
If you've been paying
mannerisms,
attention, you know.
swagger, or even his ring gear. The bold, flashy outfits, they're reminiscent of The Rock's iconic style, and it's hard to believe that this is just a coincidence. It was as if Seth was signaling something bigger is coming soon.
And where the heck was Dwayne at Mania 41, bro?
That same hand gesture that The Rock used at Bad Blood, which could be a subtle but deliberate nod. It wasn't random, it was foreshadowing. For weeks, most of us assumed it would be Cody Rhodes or maybe even Randy who would join and be recruited to stand beside John Cena and The Rock. But tonight, that theory got flipped on its head. What we saw was Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman being handpicked, not by accident, not out of desperation, but as part of a calculated plan, a long-term vision. This wasn't about loyalty or betrayal for the sake of it. It was about aligning with power, aligning with the future, and maybe, just maybe, creating a new dominant force in the WWE. Rollins and Heyman weren't just standing tall at the end of night 1, they were officially initiated into something bigger, something that's going to shake up night 2 and maybe even shake up the entire landscape of WWE for a long time to come. But now we've got to ask the next
Why
question.
did he Seth agree?
Seth Rollins agree to join Paul Heyman and maybe potentially even The Rock and John Cena? Because on the surface, it makes no sense. This goes against everything Seth has stood for over the last few years. He's been the loudest voice pushing back against the part-timers. He's fought the system.
Wait, he's not a part-timer though.
Old guard and championed the future of WWE.
He didn't know the championship run, by the way.
Workhorse, the guy who
that's Mr. Plot Armor,
who carried the brand when others didn't. So why throw all that away now? The truth is, Seth Rollins is fed up, and honestly, you can't really blame him. Look at his track record. He spent years earning every inch. Meanwhile, guys like Roman Reigns coasted through a historic title reign built on constant interference and cheating, and he barely showed up half the time. And nobody blinked an eye. Seth warned everybody about CM Punk. He called him a cancer to the locker room, and he was mocked for it, and no one listened.
I still don't think Punk is that bad. Maybe it's just biased though. I don't know.
Crickets. No outrage, no sympathy, no respect. This man gave his everything to WWE, and in return, he got laughed at, ignored, and overlooked. And at some point, that starts to break a person, and maybe just like John Cena, Seth Rollins hit that point. The point where trying to be a good guy just isn't worth it anymore, because while Rollins was out there putting on classics every week, others climbing to the top with politics and handouts. As for Seth, he was left to fight alone. So when The Rock and John Cena, two of the most powerful forces in WWE history, approached him with a seat at the table with the backing of Paul Heyman.
Bro, it would be so crazy if they actually did end up joining The Rock and John Cena, bro. Oh my god.
But because he was tired of being left out. This is clearly a heel turn, but this is also the man who's been pushed too far for far too long. Seth Rollins did not betray us. He just stopped betraying himself.
Who was us? He ain't betrayed me. That's my goal. I've been waiting for a moment like this.
The last thing in this video is what happens tomorrow. Well, this is how I see it playing out. This video is when I thought that Randy Orton was going to be the one who turns heel.
Is this about to be the Raw before the Raw after Mania?
Rollins and not Randy Orton. And this is how I see it going down. WrestleMania 41 is the main event. You have John Cena versus.
Oh, this is before. Okay, so this is before. This would have been the night 2 main event. Yeah, we already seen all that.